Greetings, everyone. I am Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to Pick and Day number 14 of my 31 favorite album blind buys of all time, as this is the third time I'm recording this video this morning because my little puppy keeps bursting into the room with a squeaky toy every time I'm like halfway through it. Squeaky, squeak, 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 squeak. And I'm like, oh, man, here we go again. So I have the door tightly secured now where he cannot do that. So here I'm going to bring you today's picks. So, again, these are picks... happen to be in a record shop, CD shop, yard sale, flea market, right? See an album, fall in love with the album cover, don't really know who the band or artist is. You bring it home, boom, home run. Today, for my pick for today, this is one of my first ever purchases from a guy named Steve Keeler and his new record store in Middletown, New York, Rock Fantasy. 40 years ago. Steve is celebrating his 40th anniversary this year, as a matter of fact. And he's got his 40th shindig coming up November 1st, for those of you who are in the area and care to attend it. It's not an all-day thing, but a pretty half a day in Middletown, New York at Clemson Brothers Brewery, right? Bands all day long celebrating 40 years of Rock Fantasy. Anyway, this was one of the first times I ever went into Rock Fantasy. And, as a young kid in 1985, 19 years old, totally into metal, walking into Rock Fantasy, after having a year or so of Rock and Roll Heaven North in Warwick, New York, but they closed down. They didn't last too long there. It was great to have another metal shop. And Steve always had all sorts of stuff hanging up on the walls. And I was always like, man, look at all these cool metal albums. I haven't heard of half of these bands, or more than half, right? So I would always rely on Steve to give me a little bit of insight. So I remember seeing this particular one. Again, one of those first times in Rock Fantasy, and saying to Steve, it's like, oh, that's a really cool album cover. I love the logo of the band, and it's got like this kind of like cool creature on the front who's just kind of bulldozing his way, through a bunch of people and a rock wall, and it's like kind of reminds me of Iron Maiden album covers a little bit. Because if you like Maiden, you probably would like these guys. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a chance on this. The album was officially released November 18th, 1985, recorded at Music Lab Studios in Berlin, West Germany, produced by Harris Johns for Helloween for Noise Records, as he gave it away. Walls of Jericho by Helloween. Their first official debut studio album. They did have the EP that came out before this. I bought that right after this because I took this home. I loved it so much I had to go get the EP. So, but I bought this first. And, really, really dug this a lot. Again, the comparisons to Iron Maiden at the time, I guess, were sort of there and maybe a little valid. Again, this is really didn't have anything we call power metal at the time, right? Speed metal, yes, and there's definitely lots of speed metal on this record, but there definitely there was a formula here that borrowed a bit from Iron Maiden, the twin leads and some of the galloping, arrangements and things like that. But for, at the time, this was a pretty groundbreaking album. So, of course, this features the lineup of Kai Hansen on vocals and guitar, Michael Waykath on guitars, Marcus Grosskopf on bass, and Ingo Schwichtenberg on drums. The original four-piece, right? And the last album featuring Kai Hansen in full lead vocal mode, right? They would bring in a guy named Michael Kiske for the next album, right? But back to this record, a bulldozing album that I still just love to listen to this day. It's still one of my favorite albums of this style. And, man, I listen to this all the time. It's like, I became totally in love with the Keeper of the Seven Keys album that came after this. And I often cite that as my favorite Helloween album, or I often have, but I think in recent years I kind of fall back on this. There's just something about the magic on this album and the stuff on the EP, these early songs, just so heavy. I mean, Ride the Sky is just absolutely killer. Reptile, Guardians, Phantoms of Death, it's just great, just fast, sometimes slightly technical, melodic, heavy metal. Again, power metal, the whole power metal thing kind of really came from this. Metal Invaders, Gorgar, so much fun. Heavy Metal is the Law. And then perhaps my favorite song on the whole album is the closing epic, How Many Tears. How Many Tears is just so good. So good. And then you throw in like the stuff from the EP, because of course I bought the remaster of this on CD that basically, you know, expands this to add the EP stuff, which the EP came out in '85 as well. And you throw it together with all these tracks, and you've got a really killer album, right? Because all of a sudden you've got Starlight, Murderer, Warrior, Victims of Fate, right? Just great stuff. But this album just so good. I mean, the dueling guitars from Kai and Michael, just so good. I always kind of liked Kai Hansen's vocals. You know, obviously they're not as melodic as Michael Kiske or Andy Darris, right? But they're definitely more raw, but I think really fit the early ferocity of this particular album and this era of the band. So good. And yeah, of course that cover artwork, right? So good. So good. Just absolutely love it. He's such a cool. I wish they've used him more throughout the years. He does pop up from time to time, but he's not on every single album cover, kind of like Eddie for Iron Maiden. But yeah, such a good record, and just took a chance on it, and that started my lifelong love of Helloween ever since. Seen the band live many times. Always fun. So many really good albums too. You know, they have this long catalog, which you know, maybe a couple of albums that kind of aren't, you know, Pink Bubbles Go Ape and Chameleon, right? I mean, they're okay for what they are. They're not as bad as we originally thought back in the day, but they're kind of not really up to snuff of the rest of the catalog. But really, other than those two albums, which are, you know, somewhat on the weaker side, really there's no bad albums in this catalog. A lot of consistency across the whole catalog, and of course now the Pumpkins United stuff is great, and I really love Giants and Monsters, and the previous album which features, you know, most of the classic members, and, you know, all three singers, and great stuff. Really great band, and one of the most important metal bands of the last 40 years for sure. So that's my pick for today. Walls of Jericho by Helloween. Could not pass up on that album cover. Brought it home. Fell in love. And I've been buying Helloween albums ever since. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think of this down in the comments below, as well as your pick for today. Pick end day number 14, and we'll see you tomorrow for 15 as we reach just about the halfway point, right? We've got a full half of the month to go before we move into something completely different for November. What that is, I don't know yet. I have some ideas I'm toying around with, so might go with one of them, which is pretty different, before we move into December, of course. End of the year stuff, and you know, we'll figure all that out. And then of course January starts, you know, looking back 50 years to 1976. I might actually start, you know, in January. I might actually go back to 1966, right? Because we really haven't done the 60s on these 50-year, 40-year, you know, the 50-year countdowns, because, you know, the 60s up until a certain point, not really much of an album decade until you got to like roughly 1966, 67. So starting in January, I might be able to do the 60 years ago, you know, my favorite 30 albums from 1966. Might be able to do that, and then go to 76 for February. 86, 96, you know, exactly. So yeah, so we'll see. That's all to be determined, and we'll see. And anyway, see you tomorrow for another one. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, our Cameo page, and the Sea of Tranquility membership options. All down there. Thanks in advance for all your support, folks. It's greatly appreciated, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.